Hello students, welcome to another lecture discussion on another poem by William Butler Yeats, and this time it is Sailing to Byzantium. There will be two parts, two videos of this, and this is part 1. So let's get started right away. In this video we will be taking a look at the overview in terms of context and summary, and then we will have a look at the text. Let's take a look at the overview. Now, the first volume in which Yeats achieves consistently a different style, and a style that is capable of ranging from hieratic, priest-like, or pertaining to Ancient Egyptian and Greek styles of art. That's what it means by hieratic. Loftiness to colloquial directness without any sense of strain or incongruity. Okay, so Yeats felt that the Tower was the best book he had written, although it astonished him by its bitterness. Now, 1921 to 28 was released a poetry collection, The Tower, and the first poem of this poetry collection was Sailing to Byzantium. Also in 1922 to 28 he was a public figure and an active senator of the Free Irish State. So the most important aspect of this life, of his life during this period was that he became a public figure. Also, he completed his prose work, A Vision, and in this he attempted to frame the human history in terms of constant battle between two fundamental human impulses, individuality and self-expression, versus integration and the subordination of self to society. The poems in The Tower are influenced by some aspects of his personal life, such as his ill health at this time, the emotional bitterness he harbored. Why? Because of the rejection in love. Also, Maud Gonne's daughter, Iseult Gonne's marriage. That was also a major factor. This marriage to a man whom he thought was not worth her. Then this was a time period when he experienced conjugal happiness. He also underwent metaphysical speculation, and there were complexities and perplexities encountered when he was exploring the world of imagination and the world of reality. When Yeats was an old man, he drew strength, among other things, from two new kinds of adventuring. The first one was into the world of sense and sensuality, and second was magic and philosophical world of a vision. In the last 10 years, it is said that he became more human. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, one more thing here. In 1923, he won a Nobel Prize for Literature. Very important point. Let's move further. Now, Yeats was a highly intelligent man, but in some respects, he was naive. His ideal society would have been one consisting only of aristocrats and peasants. It would not have had merchant and the clerk, which he thought was a corrupting middle class, and he despised them. He was not a fascist, But he did flirt with right-wing political movements. He became disillusioned with all of them, and as a senator he was obliged to be active in Irish political affairs, but withheld from politics in the party sense. However, he was an unapologetic elitist who believed that the ability to maintain the highest social and cultural standards in a society, qualities vital for its well-being, these were possessed by very few people, and that everyone in society should aid and abet those few people in their essential task. When he was having a conversation with playwright Sean A. Casey, he said, "Whatever the state, there must be a governing class placed by wealth above fear and toil." It follows that Yeats believed democracy to be a major contributor to the contemporary decline in social and cultural standards. What society needed was a firmly rooted but enlightened aristocracy with the wealth and leisure to do its job, supported by a compliant and loyal working class. Yeats must have known, on some level, that none of this would ever happen in the real world, but he believed in it nevertheless. What could he do but enshrine it in his Byzantium? And what was this? It was a society which belonged to the irretrievable past and could therefore become nothing more than his personal city of imperishable mind. Yeats was a poet, not a man of action and poetry. Not only had Byzantium begun as a Greek colony, but it was during Yeats's favored period in the reign of the Roman Emperor Justinian a very cosmopolitan community with Greek as the predominant language. It was also Yeats's belief that compared with Greek culture, Roman culture was decadent. It seems clear that in this poem Byzantium represents what for Yeats was an ideal social order in which a creative spiritual life for all would be possible. He contrasts this unfavorably with his own contemporary civilization, which seemed to him increasingly non-spiritual, materialistic, and decadent. What did Byzantium mean for Yeats? In Notes for a Broadcast made in 1931, Yeats stated, "When Irishmen were illuminating the Book of Kells and making the jeweled crozier in the National Museum, Byzantium was the center of European civilization and the source of its spiritual philosophy. So, I symbolize the search for the spiritual life by a journey to that city." In 1925, he had published A Vision, his diagrammatic modeling of the process of historical change and system of personal and historical archetypes. He described it as a last act of defense against the chaos of the world. In it he had written that Byzantium had brought aesthetic and practical life together. He gave examples of mosaic workers and goldsmiths as expressing the vision of a whole people and representing a unity of creative being. This is his Byzantium, and this is a picture from the Byzantium city. Okay, so now we have a look at what was the context in which he wrote it, the poem. He visited Ravenna, a city whose churches contain the finest of all Byzantine mosaics. This visit was in early 20th century. However, it started his interest in the Byzantium art and stayed with him till much later. Sailing to Byzantium did not come easily to Yeats. Notoriously fastidious and perfectionist in the practice of his art, 19 surviving drafts of the poem make it clear that it caused him great labor. He once wrote to Catherine Tynan, "I envy your power of writing stray snatches of verse. I cannot do it at all. With me everything is premeditated for a long time." The poem went through its preliminary stages during the very hot summer of 1926 while Yeats was staying at Muckross House in County Kerry. This is the Muckross House in County Kerry. It was the home of Bourne Vincent, a wealthy acquaintance who had offered him a temporary escape from his busy life in Dublin. By this time Yeats was a senator of the Irish Free State, a famous poet and playwright and winner of the 1923 Nobel Prize for Literature. What are believed to be Yeats's first jottings for the poem suggest that his initial theme focused on past sexual encounters, some loving and others simply carnal. This was important to Yeats because he associated sexual potency with quality of life, regrettable loss of the former being equated with unavoidable loss of the latter. Subsequent drafts of the poem indicate that there were many other false starts, fresh themes were introduced and then abandoned, some of which found their way 4 years later into his poem Byzantium. This is one of the surviving drafts, and this is a picture of Ravenna in Italy, a church there in Ravenna in Italy. What is the poem about? Sailing to Byzantium. Rejected by the cruel world of birth, generation, and death as obsolete, the poet determines to sail to a place where he will be appreciated, namely Byzantium. He hopes that he will thus be able to defeat time because art is timeless. He wants to sail from sensual music made by the birds, that dying generation, to the ethereal music made by the Byzantine birds of hammered gold and gold enameling. And yet, in spite of the fervor of his resolution, this poem is a poem of regret, uncertainty, and the rootlessness that follows rejection. This is the text. The first paragraph. That is no country for old men. The young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations. At the song, the salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh or fowl, commend all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born and dies, caught in that sensual music all neglect. Monuments of unaging intellect. So the first paragraph is possessed by the aging process and the bodily decrepitude which results from it. The opening sentence, that is no country for old men, refers not only to Ireland but it also to wherever the procreativeness exists. Such a country is relevant only for the young who still have the potency to procreate their species. In witnessing those dying generation in the ceaseless process of whatever is begotten, born and dies, natural fecundity in all its variety is expressed in images of great beauty and power. This is reinforced by the tensions created when it is submitted to the discipline of the verse form. The reader can experience the poet's personal sense of inadequacy in realizing that apart from dying he can no longer take part in nature's process. The procreation of life all around him paradoxically underlines the proximity of his own death. The word commend in line 5 here, it is masterly because it emphasizes that although the poet regrets what he has been reduced to in nature, he still recognizes the beauty of what individuality for him is reaching its end. This natural process is so compelling that those who are caught in that sensual music have no regard at the time for its cultural opposite. That is, works of art, here expressed as monuments of unaging intellect. The contradiction that matters here is in nature one ages, in culture one does not. And if I look at the word meaning here, salmon is a kind of a fish and mackerel is kind of a fish. Here this is salmons. They're jumping up. And here are the mackerel fishes. See, such crowded ones which I've put here in sea. And both these phrases, salmon falls, mackerel crowded seas, they evoke a world overflowing with physical energy, birth and instinctive passion. Begotten here means fathered. It is an old-fashioned use. Sensual music here, it means all these creatures listen to sensual music and are unmindful of intellectual activity. Sensual because it appeals to the senses only, as against something that appeals to the mind or the intellect. And monuments of unaging intellect, it means intellectual achievements which are ageless, so are of permanent value. It refers to great works of art which never die. Okay, let's move on further. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school but studying, monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. Yeats often used the image of a scarecrow to represent an aging man. And in the second stanza here he is no more than a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hand and sing and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress. Here his soul, the immortal part of him, it positively rejoices at each manifestation of his mortal body. It is the triumph of immortality over the all too mortal body in decline that is celebrated. Its importance is emphasized in the repetition of and louder sing. The poem then takes up the theme of artistic practice in the actual society of his time, which, unlike that of Yeats's Byzantium, was centered on the individual artist's egotistical concerns rather than the well-being of society as a whole. Nor is there singing school but studying monuments of its own magnificence. For these reasons, Yeats longs to abandon both nature and contemporary society for the whole city of Byzantium. Paltry, paltry word here means just a small insignificant thing. Third paragraph in stanza, this is stanza 3. O sages, standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire, and fasten to a dying animal. It knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. So in this stanza 3, once he has entered the holy city, who is he? It is Yeats. He invokes certain saintly images of Byzantium mosaic art set against a golden background, or sages which he had seen during earlier visits to Italy. He importunes these holy images because they are the means to his perceived salvation. The phrase "Pern in a gyre" is part of Yeats's highly idiosyncratic terminology used in his book A Vision. A pern is a bobbin of a spinning mill. Pern is a bobbin of a spinning mill, and gyre is a circular motion as in gyrate. The resulting image is that of simultaneously circulating and moving up through the cone of time. Immune as the holy images are from decay, standing in God's holy fire, he implores them to burn in a gyre and thereby re-enter the world of whatever is begotten, born and dies. By that re-entry his heart, the seat of his longing, will be neutralized. Consume my heart away, and he will no longer be subject to the decay he is already experiencing from the aging process. The distress caused by sexual longing, sick with desire, it is denied by bodily decrepitude, which is fastened to a dying animal, makes him long for the immortality which the saintly images already possess, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Now the word meaning, mosaic, it is a picture, or mosaic is here. Mosaic is a picture or pattern that is made by placing together small colored stones, pieces of glass. It was a very common thing in Byzantium. The artists used this a lot in decoration and art works. Pern, we have discussed that. Jaya, we have discussed. Artifice of eternity, it means a skillful human creation achieving immortality and spiritual perfection through human art and craftsmanship rather than through the natural aging physical body. This is the last stanza. Once out of nature I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enamelling, to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come. Yeats believed in reincarnation, but the fourth stanza makes clear that at his death, which he says, once out of nature, he had no wish to return as an element of whatever is begotten, born and dies. Now this is a crucial point in the poem. So given a choice, he would return as something at once immortal and representative of his beloved Byzantium. What better than a Byzantium work of art, a created bird of, here he says, such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make, of hammered gold and gold enamelling. See, this is a golden bird, which, unlike the poet trammeled by his mortality, would sing forever of the mystery and wisdom of the ages to an emperor here, and his enlightened aristocracy, who would in turn disseminate it appropriately for the benefit of all. No matter that this concept made no sense in everyday life. We have been drawn into the world of poetry, Yeats's only refuge from this bitter real world, where the imagination can and often does make anything happen. Enameling here, it means the craft or process of fusing powdered glass onto a metal, glass or pottery surface using high heat. So that is the fourth stanza here. So to summarize, in this video, we had a look at the overview in terms of context and summary of the poem Sailing to Byzantium, and then we also read and understood the text, the four stanzas of the poem. With that, we come to the end of this video discussion. It would be continued to part 2 now, and in part 2 we would have a look at the analysis, the structure, tone and style, thematic contrasts, symbolic contrast, literary analysis, poetic devices, and the comparison of the two Byzantium poems, and not to forget the questions in the end. I hope you found some value with this in this video. It was useful for you, and I'll again leave you with wishing you happy learning, and hoping that the next video also is equally useful for you. So thank you for listening. In case you have any question, you can put them in the comment box.